Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, dead slave servers, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, banker scum. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And today I want to talk about the FDIC closed another bank, the First National Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, and it was immediately absorbed by the First Bank and Trust Company of Duncan. And we had one other bank uh, close earlier this year, Republic First Bank of Philadelphia. And before that, the last bank that was closed by the FDIC was in 2014. But this is a story worth watching. First of all, I've spent about 20 years on YouTube talking about banker scum. It used to be really sexy to talk about banker scum after the big bailouts of 2008 and that crash. But people just aren't really interested anymore. But I'll always be interested in banker scum because it's really at the heart of a lot of things that go on. And where the banks are at now, both the regional banks and the mega banks of Wall Street, could be in the headlines again fairly soon. There's a lot of rot there, and there could be a big economic crash. I'm going to do a big video on that pretty soon because I think the day of reckoning is coming pretty soon. But this bank being closed in Oklahoma will cost the FDIC $43 million, and of course that burden eventually gets passed on to the taxpayer. So that's something to bear in mind. But the other thing is that the deposit guarantees are questionable. They're becoming more questionable. In this case, anybody that has $250,000 or less at First National Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, will get covered. But people that have deposits over 250,000, they're already having issues. And even though all the assets of First National Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, has been transferred to the First Bank and Trust Company of Duncan, um, there's still going to be a wait for a lot of these people. So there's going to be a lot of issues because the FDIC really doesn't have the funds to cover it if there's a lot of bank failures, and there probably will be a lot of bank failures. A lot of observers out there are saying the fact that we're going to see quite a lot of bank failures moving into the next few years, not unlike what happened back in 2008 and many other times in U.S. history. But and particularly because commercial real estate has been on the ropes for pretty much since 2008, and they've just kicked the can down the road and keep extending the loans and everything else. But the day of reckoning has come. We're having huge properties sell for pennies on the dollar, and 70% of all these commercial real estate loans are held by regional banks. So if commercial real estate finally has to pay the piper, it's going to ripple through the regional bank system, and we'll see a lot of failures and consolidation. That's usually what happens. There'll be a lot of failures, but there'll be a consolidation, and we've seen this move to less and less banks over the last 10, 20, 30 years, and that process will keep going forward. But one of the things and in fact, FDIC says that 66 banks right now are on the brink of failure. So that substantiates what I'm just saying. There's a lot of banks on the ropes. I've heard other observers talking about the fact that there's a couple thousand banks that are on the ropes, and a lot of it is due to bad loans, bad underwriting. But one of the things I find interesting about this story with First National Bank of Lindsay, Oklahoma, getting closed is for false and deceptive bank records. Their assets were far less than their obligations. And I guess my point being that what are the odds? What are the odds that there's just one or two or three or a handful of banks that have false and deceptive bank records? And that's where we have to take it seriously, both for the mega banks and the regional banks, is because I can say with pretty good certainty that all of those banks have false and deceptive bank records, and it's only a matter of getting caught. And that's certainly true of the mega banks. All those banks cook their books. All those banks have false and deceptive bank records, and it's just a matter of time. And they try and of course when they get help with the regulators, the people that are supposed to be regulating and overseeing banks don't do a very good job, and a lot of it is because the price is just too high to pay. They start looking into every bank, they're going to find false and deceptive bank records, in nearly all of them, and it's just not it's just too much for them to actually go after them. It's easier just to pretend that they're all okay and have people have faith in the banking system, and so this stuff just goes on. But anyway, I always like talking about banker scum, and this is a good example. We're going to see more bank closures moving forward, and I'll be doing more um, videos on banker scum because it's always just been a good, fun hobby for me. So anyway, heads up. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.